Hello, Hockey World. How are you doing? Today is Wednesday, October 19th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the Hockeybuzzcast on Hockeybuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. I apologize for being out yesterday. Good job. Thanks, guys, for covering for me.
No problem.
I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm feeling a little bit better today. We got a lot to get to. So we're going to start off with this crazy-ass goal from last night in a shootout by Vincent Trocheck. So I'm going to, before we talk about it, because I honestly had to admit that I was still not feeling the greatest. So I fell asleep early last night. So I didn't see this goal, but I just watched it now on replay. And I want you guys to watch it as well. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to pause since this isn't a KHL. I'm not worried about this. We can play this. All right, so here we go. Ready?
Yep.
All right. So this is a shootout goal. We all know the rules of shootouts, right? Let's watch the rules of shootouts. You have to continue to be moving forward all the time. That's the rule as I understood it, and not lose control of the puck. Those are two things. You lose control of the puck, you're moving forward. You're all good. Here we go. Vincent Trocheck presenting an example of an actual shootout. Here we go. Okay, so it might be a little hard to tell,
this is
on this replay, but it does look to me very much like he lost control of the puck. Now that he tries to make a move and it pops over his stick. Here's the replay. Now you can see it a little bit better, right? Here he makes, you can't tell because Bishop's in the way, and the puck also apparently goes backwards. You can tell that.
No. It didn't go backwards, and this is the thing.
Didn't go backwards?
No. Okay. Ben
All right,
Bishop.
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Ben Bishop celebrated, skated out of the crease. John Cooper went to the locker room. Everybody thought it was over with, except Trocheck, and they went to Toronto. And the finding was Trocheck fanned on the shot. He didn't touch the puck when he attempted to shoot. When he did that, the puck was going sideways, like it was right there. It did not go backwards, and it was in continuous motion. So because it didn't stop and it didn't go back, it was a continuous play, and then he shot it into the net. That's why they ruled it a good goal. I think it's a terrible ruling. I think this opens up, and I was telling Russ this before, I think this opens up the possibility of players coming in and like winding up and faking a slap shot. Not just faking it, but winding up and like taking a wind up and shooting, but missing the puck. As long as the puck is going forward still, a player could do that, and it wouldn't be considered an opportunity.
Yeah, like you could throw it across. You could throw. Can you put the puck off the boards in a shootout? Does anybody know if that's a rule? If that's legal? Like could you technically pass it off the boards to yourself in a shootout? I wonder.
No, I think that's losing position.
That's losing position is considered?
Possession.
Possession. I mean, that's no more losing possession than this is. I mean, this is like, this is legitimately, and okay, so they're saying it's going forward still. I get it. I get what they're saying.
It wasn't going backward. I don't think.
And you can give Trocheck credit for finishing out the play because I don't think he would have thought it would have. I don't think he thought it would have counted necessarily. Like this is, but he finished it out. Although he did look like he thought it counted. Like you say, Mike, it does open up a whole can of worms in what is already a very wormy can.
But here's the thing. So we watch him lose control of the puck, and even if the puck's not going backwards, it's going further away from the net.
Right.
It's clear it's not what he wanted to do or was hoping to do. And at that point, it should be a dead play. Like, how long are you expecting a goalie to hang with that? That's really unfair. Now, should Bishop have done what he did? Probably not. But the idea is, I would see that, and I would think the game was over too.
Oh yeah, I don't blame Bishop at all for this. We've seen plenty of this. We've seen this happen before. We've seen players lose control of the puck like this before on a deke. Hops over their stick, and then the play's just over, and that ends. And Bishop isn't doing anything out of the norm now. This is completely not what he tried to do. He tried to. Did he say he tried to do this?
No, this wasn't. It was not intentional. The intention there was for Trocheck to, as he was deking back and forth, was to go to the forehand and then shoot. But
has he really said? Has he said that? Do we know that for fact? The more I watch this play, and I'm watching it, it does look to me like he almost planned it. Like
there's no way he could plan that because he is literally going 5 feet further from where he wanted to be.
Right.
Yeah, let me bring up another point of this, because I'll tell you something else that's wrong with this. And last year we did the Cranky Hockey Writers show, and we're going to be doing some more with Derek DeHashi and Kevin Allen. We talked about it at the World Cup of Hockey. Really would do it. I want to show you something about this that really bothers me. So I'll bring this up again, because this could fix this whole thing. Because what it is the fact is, players who come in this slow, okay, and continue to move forward is an issue to me. Like, because the fact is it's never set up to be that you can almost come to a complete dead stop in front of the goalie. Stick handle back and forth. That's a really unfair. I don't have to show you guys saw it, but that's a really unfair thing. Like to be able to do that. Juhacek had what I thought was the coolest idea ever to make the shootout better. I don't know if I told you guys, and you might have even been on the show when we talked about it, Mike. For some reason, I remember you being on the show. My memory is weird, but
cranky enough. I mean,
yeah. So his idea was, when the shoot-off takes place, the guy takes it from center ice, and at the same time, a defender is on the blue line further away, and that defender is allowed to chase him down. All right, which means I love it. Which means that guy would have to go, full tilt, and it could even be like, if you have a really fast defender, it opens another element of the game altogether. You have a guy who could actually catch him.
But now, if you have the best defenseman in the league, you could have a marginal goalie, and you have now the edge in the shootout. I don't like it. It should be one-on-one.
Well, no. It would also give birth to the specialist on defense. Like a Marc-Andre Bergeron, who's a quick defenseman.
Right.
Him as the chaser in a shootout. I
right.
mean, how far afield are we going to get from the actual game to have a chaser in a shootout? I mean, I
don't know. It would, yeah. I mean, I get it. There's a lot. I mean, we've talked about this ad infinitum before.
And Trocheck in this opportunity, he skated hard until about the middle of the slot, and then he slowed down and started his D game
To almost a stop.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it was barely moving forward, but it gives.
Check this out for a second too, because I want to point something out. Like, we all think that Bishop skated away. I'm not 100% convinced. Like, watch this. I'm gonna bring this up because I was watching this again. I'm not 100% convinced that Bishop didn't do a little acting on his own here too, because so this is the point at which the puck's been lost, right? So I'm going to go slowly. Crap! Stop.
And at that point, Trocheck has fanned on the shot. That's
right.
That's the thing.
He fanned on the shot, but
I don't think it was planned, Dak, because first of all, I mean, the puck was bouncing all over the place. So there's no way you could plan that.
Right. No, I agree. Okay, here I go. Sorry about this. I apologize. I'm like a mess today, but I want to show you this because I think it's relatively important. Otherwise, I wouldn't waste your time. All right, here we go. So, all right, here as he comes in on Bishop, right? He makes the move here, right? Makes the play. Bishop, though, it's not like Bishop goes away right away. He actually does make a move back to try to save it. I mean, he
really doesn't.
It was a half-hearted effort, Dak.
It really wasn't. All he did was put his glove toward the middle, but he didn't dive for it or anything. I think once he saw him go on the periphery, he was skating away.
And he thought it was over. He pumped his glove or pumped his fist. So yeah, I think he thought it was over with.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is going to bring up a slew of other things, right? Because with the shootout is what the shootout is. At this point, I think the 3-on-3 has made the shootout, fortunately, less significant, and I think in a good way. I think that
it has. It's taken away a lot of it.
It's taken away about half of them, honestly, and that's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good number.
So here's the thing: was that created because they realized the shootout wasn't what they wanted it to be, so they created something else to stop something else? That's what it seems like.
The 3-on-3, you mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think the 3-on-3 was created because there was a real sense that the game wasn't being decided by the teams but by specialists. I think that they didn't want the shootout specialist concept in the NHL.
Okay, so then let's just get rid of the shootout now that 3-on-3 is here, and who cares?
Well, the problem with that, of course, is the NHLPA will not allow you to play until there's no winner. No, you can go back to having ties, and there's some people who say, why not? Why not go back to having ties?
Yeah, I would go back to having a tie after 3-on-3. I bet you there'll be like 5 or 6 ties per team per year. That's it.
God forbid, but the popular sport in the world, soccer, has ties. So it's not an anathema to professional sports to have a tie, especially when it's ingrained in the history of the NHL that there were ties.
The NFL has ties.
Yeah. So why not? I mean, and Major League Baseball in an All-Star game had one, didn't they? But
yeah.
No, that's true. That's true too. All right. Well, let's move on for a second because the next thing I want to show you guys is the check of the year. And I don't know if you saw this or not.
I did.
But this is Dmitry Orlov on Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
And this is phenomenal. So here we go. So this is you're gonna see it now come up here. This is a good old fashioned hip check, and Duchene literally head over heels. Like, when do you see that? When do you see a guy literally do an entire 360? Like, he almost flips up and keeps skating. Like, if he was a little bit further, he could have continued skating.
Yeah.
That was so good. That was so good that a Tears for Fears song should have been played on it.
This is what I like about Matt Duchene, though. He doesn't try and attack Orlov. He just goes to the bench. A lot of other guys try and attack that guy like, how dare you? He didn't even do it. He knew. He's like, okay.
That's an excellent point. I agree with that completely.
Yep.
You're right. He doesn't try to attack him. He just goes right to the bench. And that's no one on the team attacks him, really. Did they? Or maybe they did.
It's a legit hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something. Wow. Very cool. All right. A couple of things. I wanted to talk because we have Russ on the show. Well, Russ is on the show. I shouldn't even say that anymore because Russ is like a regular on the show every day.
Just about.
You're on as much as I'm on this week, probably. So, or more. So, last night, Mr. Provorov, okay, had a hellacious game in the NHL. Like, and it's very interesting. Like, I mean, beyond bad. Like, really, and I say that with all due respect to the guy's an incredible player and will be an incredible player in all his career. And the Flyers players were right behind him, and this just happens when you're 19 years old. But this really shows a lot of what Russ has been saying all these years, right? I mean, this is really one of those situations where you can't sit back and just rush a defenseman in. And we always talk about it, and people are always complaining. People like me, I admit, I'm one of them, complains about we want to see these guys right away. We want to see them in the league. Last night, you saw a couple things with Provorov that were really terrible. I mean, I don't even want to bring them up. I could show them, but he just had giveaways, and I've noticed in his first 3 games, to be honest, several of these like that didn't count in goals, but he's fallen down a lot. He is overplayed. I think he's trying to do too much, maybe.
I think he is. I think that's fair. Yep,
and it does show how difficult it is because this is the best defenseman taken in last year in the draft 2 years ago. So we're talking about a guy who is really highly. He is the number 1 defenseman taken in that draft, correct? So this guy is a serious prospect who has done everything he could do, right? But now you see, and he's physically capable. He doesn't look like a 19-year-old. He's strong as a bull. But yet last night and even in other games, he has made some big time errors. And last night, really, the Hawks made him look every bit like he was a 19-year-old.
Yeah, I would say the first couple of games I was fine with him. I noticed a little bit, but didn't say anything after that. But like the Arizona game, I still thought he was okay. He wasn't as good as the previous game, but he was okay. This game, it was the Hawks that just made him look bad. And then I think when things started to snowball a little bit, and that's when you saw that last pass that ended, in the game-winning goal for them, right? So I think that was the snowball effect, excuse me, that you don't want to see happen to a young guy who's put in a pressure-packed situation and in a game that's going back and forth, because clearly he wasn't the only defender having trouble in that game. The whole Flyers defense was having trouble in that game. But he's in the spot now where he's on the ice when other important guys are on the ice for Chicago, and these guys make every defenseman look bad.
Right. No, they do. I mean, the Blackhawks are the Blackhawks, right? There were a couple goals last night that were crazy. They were crazy goals.
Yeah, and this is the problem with and I think Provorov is a great prospect. I think he's going to be a very good NHL defenseman. But this is the problem with bringing in a 19-year-old and putting him in your top 4. You expose him to top 6 forwards on the other team and the potential of being undressed. And if that's going to happen. I mean, it's very rare that a young defenseman can play that kind of premium role and not be exposed at some point. Brandon Carlo, Russ and I talked about him yesterday. He's playing 24 minutes against I think it was Calgary, Winnipeg, excuse me. But the thing is, he's playing with Zdeno Chara, so he's playing
Chara to sort of ease him in. The Flyers don't have that guy to ease in. They just don't.
They don't. And what's been fascinating in the first 3 games for the Flyers, and
one thing to add too. So Provorov left that game thinking he was a -4 and probably thought, wow, this is like the worst game of my life. And then they changed the score sheet and made him a -5.
Oh, man.
Poor guy.
And there's a couple things. the one thing, I mean, besides Provorov, that has been kind of missing the first 2 games is Brandon Manning has played out of his mind. Like, he has played the best
hockey. Why is anybody surprised? Like, again,
I'm surprised. I'm going to throw it out there because I was not a Manning guy. I will be the first to admit this. Okay, I last year said a couple times, I might have said it to you, that when Manning made a play that I thought was crazy, I was like, I would be the first one who was. My quote was, "Well, just tell yourself that next year Provorov won't do that." But Manning in the first 3 games, and he's only getting an opportunity because of Gudas's injury, because of his suspension right here at this point. So they're going to have a tough time pulling him out of the lineup right now because he's as good as any of the defensemen are. I mean, they will pull him out of the lineup for sure. But that.
Here's the thing about Manning that people forget. Again, going in his draft year, he was the top guy for the VO2. So I noticed him right away from that and said, okay, I got to pay attention because this guy's got stamina. When he's come up for the Flyers, he's known that he has to sort of fill a role. He's never going to play what he wants to play or should be playing. And, so even last year going into the season, I remember preseason, he was like, I got to be physical. And he wanted to sort of win that job, but Gudas won that job. But now I think if you're matching up him and Gudas, he's better than Gudas. I think it's not even a question. Gudas looked good last year because the Flyers' defense was so bad.
Yeah, no, that's the truth.
He was the better of the worst. And
no, you're really right.
Yeah, and that's not to say Gudas can't play defense, because he can.
And Gudas has a role. Like, let's put. I mean, he's got a different role that no one on this team has. Which is that he is going to be the guy who people are going to have their heads up. Then for right or wrong, whatever you talk, suspension or no suspensions, you're afraid. You are afraid if you're a forward skating around Gudas that something's going to do something crazy, right?
But that's a double-edged sword. Now,
for sure.
And now Gudas has been exposed as somebody who will take the cheap hit, and now that he's suspended for 6 games, now if he lays somebody out again, he's in trouble because he'll be a repeat offender. The book's already out on him, and he's going to have to maybe clean up his act a little bit. Otherwise, he becomes Brian Marchment or one of those other defensemen who keeps getting suspended all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I think Dave Haxtell should look at him now and say, okay, you reeled it in last year, but you didn't this year. Right. And if I were him, I would not play Gudas every game. I would only play Gudas against bigger, tougher lineups, and against teams that have a lot of speed. I would play Manning. I would have to give Manning more playing time.
The problem is, Russ, is that they signed him to an extension. He's making $3.6 million.
That's okay. I mean, Mark Fain's not even playing in Edmonton, right? He's making that money too. This is now throwaway money on defense.
Well, you need to pay. You need 8 NHL defensemen. You do, and so you're paying 8. And anything. I mean, 3 is a lot, granted, but like you said, he did earn his spot last year. He actually scored some goals last year. Some strange things happened with him last year. But this is a good moment for Flyers fans though to watch, and this is Provorov frustrated, but Giroux coming over to him, and I thought I was really mad that the cameras came off of this and filled it out. They didn't recognize this because it comes off really quickly, but it was really, you could see. I mean,
I do want to point out something to the Flyers fans that always kind of rip Giroux for being captain. Like, what the hell does he do? Does he ever do anything? Well, these are things that maybe you don't see him.
Yeah, totally.
The camera's not on him.
Totally. This was a really good moment for Giroux, I thought. Like, and it really showed a lot. I mean, Giroux is a very good guy. He's not a bad guy at all. He's he's really, and he really is like, he's not your hard ass type captain.
No.
He's not like a Pronger or.
No, he keeps the team upbeat. He is analytical when things are going bad, but he is always looking for the silver lining. He always will.
And he struggled. I mean, and Giroux has struggled. I mean, he had 3 points last night, which is, good for him. I mean, it was a fascinating game because, the Flyers fall down 4-0. They pull Neuwirth. Nason goes in. They tie it at 4. And then,
I just said the day before, it looks like Neuwirth may have won this spot, and then he tanks again.
Well, this is the history of Michael Neuwirth, right? And Mike saw it in Buffalo. We've seen it other places, and the Capital fans know it very well too. That Michael Neuwirth, and this is not, and that again. Not to say it'll be like this forever, but this is eerily similar.
But here's the thing. This is what I said yesterday, and you can tell me if you disagree. If Neuwirth would have won yesterday, he would have started. To me, he would have started the home opener.
Yeah.
Now it's Mason. There's no doubt.
Now it's Mason, and that isn't. I really think this was being set up that Neuwirth. And if Neuwirth wins yesterday and starts the home opener, then he's your starter, right? He's become your starter.
But this is, I mean, and it's not completely impossible for a leper to change his spots in terms of a player in the NHL, but Michael Neuwirth has been a 1B goaltender his entire career. He's not a 1A goaltender. He's not somebody who you can play.
Depends how you define 1B. You know, like that's a really hard thing.
1B means he can play 30, 35 games. He can sometimes be a starter, but he's not a guy who's your main go-to guy, the guy you start in every playoff game. He's not capable of that kind of consistency.
I mean, let me change that just a little bit. I get what you're saying, Mike, and your history proves you're right. But I'll say I'm going to define a goalie a little bit differently. In terms of, I've always looked at the goalies like who can steal you games, right? And as far as and there are some really good goalies in the NHL who I don't give as and you know, guys who are starters on many teams. I would put Neuwirth in the top 10 of being able to steal a game. Like I've seen him actually steal games from, you know, and he's not a top 10 goalie in NHL, but he has the top 10. He has the ability to actually play that well. And then last night really wasn't his fault, to be honest. I mean, those 4 goals were really, you can blame Hosa's goal, you know, on him. But beyond that,
500 goal, we should say that. That's amazing.
500 goal, which is incredible. And you know, forever he'll, you know, people just.
I do want to say this too. I may have said this a couple years ago, but I want to say it again. Thank God the 500 goal mark has not been sort of killed in hockey like it has been in baseball, because the 500 goal mark in hockey is still a very great place to be. It's a great achievement. But in baseball now, it's cheapened because of all the steroid use. That's the problem with that.
What is it, 42? Yeah, right. Only 42 players in the NHL have ever done it. I mean, it's impressive.
It is.
It is really impressive. And I don't know. I just think that when you look through the whole thing, as far as, you know, the Flyers goaltending goes, this is why you're probably not going to see Hextall make a move right away, because there's still issues. And last night, although I wouldn't blame it on Neuwirth, you have to go back to, you know, last year. People might not remember that Neuwirth played an unbelievable game in Chicago, won the game for the Flyers in Chicago, and did one of these stealing games type situations like I'm talking about. So,
I mean, just to touch on the point that you made before, I think Neuwirth has #1 goaltender ability. He doesn't have #1 goaltender consistency, and that's the problem.
Here's the thing. Honestly, neither one of them will get more than a 3-year deal out of the Flyers anyhow, because Carter Hart's going to be their next goalie. Correct. They know it. We know it. It's possible he'll be in the NHL in 2 years. So 2 years, 3 years, that's what they're looking at now for this next goalie contract. That's what I think that they're doing.
They're stopgaps. They're both stopgaps. Yeah.
So when you think of Marian Hossa, who did score his 500th goal, what do you think of? Like that? This is an interesting thing. Someone asked me this because there are many.
Him as a Selke guy, and I forget that he could score 35 goals a year.
Right. You think of him as, but he's one of the more fascinating players in the NHL because of the fact that he has had such an interesting career. Because I think of him actually as a thrasher. I don't know why, but I think of him as a thrasher.
I think of him, and the thing is, he scored the bulk of his goals. He was a pure scorer when he was in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And obviously I remember that because of the Brian Berard incident that he took out Berard's eye with his stick.
That's so long ago. I mean, doesn't that feel like so long ago that he was in Ottawa too? I mean, think of that Ottawa team. I mean that.
Yeah. So
that was Yashin, right? That was Daig. I mean, you had players on that team that are
it was after Daig. It was Yashin. It was Yashin. It was Redden. It was Chara, because he was traded for Heatley.
And this is the Ottawa team that went to the finals, right? That was so good. But he wasn't part of that team that went to the finals. But he was on the team before. Remember, because you remember the Ottawa Senators had some teams that might have even been better than the team that went to the finals before that.
He was part of the Ottawa Senators teams that always lost to the Leafs in the playoffs.
Right, but they scored tons of goals, right? That was the team that scored tons of goals.
Right. But then he got traded to Atlanta, and then Atlanta traded him to Pittsburgh. Then he went to Detroit, and then he went to Chicago.
Well, then I think of him as the guy who didn't win a Stanley Cup in a couple different places. Remember, because he went to these places and back and forth between Pittsburgh and I'm pretty sure in 2008 he was on Pittsburgh and he lost to Detroit. Then he went to Detroit and he lost to Pittsburgh. That's right, and it went to the same. Yeah, he did. So he was like this guy, and then he gets back there again and does finally win it with Chicago. So, and he's always been like the epitome of the other talented guy. Like actually, I was watching the Flyers broadcast, and they really kind of summed it up perfectly. I think Keith Jones said he's the other talented guy that you need. Like you have a bunch of talented guys. We need one more talented guy, and that's going to be Hossa. Hossa's going to be the other talented guy, and that's what he's been in the last several places he's been. Although he's totally talented within his own right of being, I mean, is he a Hall of Famer? Probably, right?
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, because he's won Stanley Cups. He's been to a lot of Stanley Cups, so there you go.
Yeah, he's been to 5 Stanley Cup Finals, and he's won 3.
Let's talk Vancouver Canucks for a second, because the Canucks, who everybody was putting down, everybody was saying, well, maybe, except for Russ. Actually, Russ has always been on the Canucks. He's always been solid with the Canucks. I'll give him that.
I didn't say they were going to be last.
Right, I did. Kevin did yesterday, or Monday. But yeah, he's always been. He's the Canucks have in 3 straight games now come from behind to win, either in an overtime or a shootout. In 3 straight games last year, they did that twice the entire year. It's pretty fascinating. So they've only played 3 games, right? And now they've done it.
Never led in a game.
Right. So now here they are.
That's an NHL record.
Isn't that incredible? So here you go. So they have actually, they've won 3 straight games without leading in a game. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's something. I mean, the Canucks. I mean, I'm a big Desjardins fan. I've always said that. I think Willie Desjardins is a really underappreciated coach for what he's doing there. And I think that team is not as good as the players are not as good as that team has been, even though they haven't been great. I still think
I think you have to remember now, Brandon Sutter's back and healthy, and we forget how good he is. He was really good with Pittsburgh. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
We do forget because injuries have sort of made us forget that the last year and a half. But he's a heck of a player, and they got him back.
Yeah, right, and that is a big thing. I do agree with you completely. So I mean, they're fun to watch. They're definitely something you want to check out as teams go along. Every Canadian team won last night, by the way, that played.
The bizarre thing about Vancouver yesterday was that the first couple games I believe Miller played, and Miller had some sort of mysterious illness or injury, and they had to emergency recall a college goalie from University of British Columbia to be the backup for Markstrom. So and there's been a history there. At least last year, Miller had for the first time in his career had some injury problems. Maybe age is starting to settle in with him. But if Markstrom and Miller can stay healthy, and the Sedins and Eriksson play well together, which they did at the World Cup, then I don't think they're going to be a last-place team. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to be a last-place team.
How about this, for example? The other thing that happened last night in the game that was really fascinating. Did you guys see this? Here we go. I'll show you this. This is great. So that UBC Thunderbirds goalie Matt Hewitt.
Matt Hewitt, yeah.
Dressed for the Canucks last night as a backup.
Mike was telling me about this.
Yeah, because they needed an emergency goalie all of a sudden. So now he goes to the University of British Columbia now.
Yes.
Is this made me wonder about something. I mean, what's the first thing you think about? I mean, he can't get paid if you're in college, right? Or is that just an American thing?
They signed him to an emergency contract, like a one-day contract.
Professional as a collegiate athlete, at least.
Yeah, but that's just in the United States. He's a university guy, so I don't know what the rules are for Canadian university hockey.
Right.
Interesting, but that's kind of that's a great thing. I mean, what a great
thing. Yeah.
What a great moment. He never, didn't get in.
I'm trying to get him in trouble.
I know. I'm not trying to get him in trouble. I just thought that's when I heard when you hear a college, like think about that all the times that teams, in other sports would have done that in the United States if they could have. Hey, we're going to bring up that guy from college and play him in the. No,
We'll call up Johnny Manziel to play quarterback.
Yeah, right. Carey Price didn't play last night, but the Al Montoya era continues with a big shutout. But Carey Price is in net today as the starter in practice. It looks like Carey Price is going to be in tonight. Is it tonight, right? Yes, he's in tonight. So
no, tomorrow. Thursday.
Tomorrow night. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure, but he's in the starter practice. There you go. So
the conspiracy theory is over.
The conspiracy theory is indeed over. There you have it. So
now, there is something else. There's some subterfuge going on with the LA Kings.
Okay, what's up?
So Jonathan Quick had a procedure done, but not surgery. So it's obviously like an outpatient surgery. Like that's what we're talking about here.
So I had an open heart procedure for a quintuple bypass, but it wasn't surgery.
Right.
I know. And this is, of course, they're waiting to see how this procedure / surgery / I don't know, mythical event, how this affects him, because they're going to decide then if it's only a procedure, apparently he could be back quicker than they thought. And if he has to surgery, it's 3 to 4 months, and then they need to get a backup goalie. And Pavlik rumors have also surfaced around this too. That seems like the wrong way for LA to go to me, but I might be wrong. Pavlik can be a very good goalie, obviously at times. but I don't see him as the answer to the Kings' issues. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's probably better than most players you can get. I guess they're at the point where beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But I don't know. I think that Pavlik is not exactly the answer you're looking for in this situation. But we'll know more. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I mean, okay. And we talked about this on Monday about goaltenders like Berra and Berube or maybe Grice being a solution.
Right.
If it's 3 or 4 months, the only benefit for a guy like Pavlik is Pavlik has been a go-to guy. The only way the Kings do that type of deal is if they get Winnipeg to take back half the money, because right now his contract was 3.9 and they're only saving $950,000. So they're on the hook for $3 million, and he's playing for the Manitoba Moose, and he's probably taking playing time away from Eric Comrie, who's one of their young goalies who they want to play.
Right.
So it does them a favor if they, for example, maybe take $1.5 million to $2 million haircut on that deal. You clear money, you clear the space, and LA might benefit in the sense that they have a number one goaltender who's better than Zatkov and better than Peter Budaj. I think it makes sense, but I don't know whether the willingness is there on the part of
They're going to have to do something. I mean, Quick's not coming back soon. Zatkov is not going to be able to play every day like this. He's being exposed. He is a good backup, but they have to get somebody else. And at least if you got Pavlik, he could play 75% of the time, and they'd be in much better shape. If they don't do it, they're in danger of being a non-playoff team.
Oh, big time. I mean, they were already in. I mean, the Kings' MO is not built to finish in first or second in their division anymore. Their MO is to make the playoffs. So, you know, they aren't a solid playoff team as it stands. So yeah, I agree completely. This was interesting last night. We had the first NHL goal this year. Of course, there have been other NHL goals, but by Alex Radulov, who playing for the Montreal Canadiens, scored this goal. And then someone pointed this out. It's really an interesting thing on Reddit. It's a beautiful goal. First off, it is definitely a Radulov-esque goal. This is a Radulov move that he's made many times. I remember this with the Predators, and someone actually did this, which I'll show you something in a second. That's really fascinating. He scored a goal like this against Team Canada way back when. It was in 2009. So check this out. Someone did this really, really fun thing it's on Reddit Hockey. That highlights these two goals. Hopefully this will work out. You'll be able to see this well. But okay, so the one on top, of course, is last night's goal. The one on the bottom is the one in 2009. It's eerie.
But again, if you could find that on Jeff Carter literally has two moves. He either goes down on the wing and scores on a wrist shot, or he goes down on the wing, moves to the slot, and scores on a wrist shot.
Yeah. It's just like this. It's the same. It's fascinating. So yeah, really. I mean, no, and it is true on a lot of players, but. And it's amazing to me that, now that this has been, now that you're that defenseman, you're like, he's cutting across the middle. That's something you can definitely consider.
Yeah, and the book was out on Alex Ovechkin early in his career. He made his power move, I guess, was going to one particular side, and for a while it took. He struggled because defensemen were taking that away. He's changed.
Yeah.
So I think if the book is out on Radulov, eventually he'll have to change, but he's got the capability and the talent to be able to do it.
Oh yeah, he does. Although there's lots of different questions on Radulov, but we'll see.
One thing that we're sort of not talking about that I think we should is it seems like goal scoring's up this year, and I think I have an answer. Not because just that it's early in the season. I think now with free agency and everything else, and now teams having to use younger defensemen, that very few teams have elite defense cores. I think really the Anaheim Ducks seem to be the one team that can hold everybody's score down, but they can't score.
Yeah.
A lot of other teams don't have an elite defense anymore.
You're right.
And let's can we just touch on Anaheim for a second here, because it
plays into what I want to talk about next anyway.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
Because they've started the season terribly again. This time with Randy Carlyle, last year with Bruce Boudreau, the year before they started off badly with Boudreau, and even if you go back to 2012, the reason that Carlyle got fired in Anaheim was because they struggled early in the season. They're constantly a slow starter, and at some point it's got to go on the players rather than the coaches. Because I watched a lot of the game against New Jersey. They had some good opportunities, and Corey Schneider played well. But for some reason, I don't know, Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, they seem to be in a trance early on in the year. They're without Hampus Lindholm, probably their number one defenseman. And I think that Bob Murray. I mean, I think he's got a tenuous hold on his job in the first place. But they need to shake up that roster. It's not just this is surprising. No, this keeps happening, and it continues to happen with this team. So they need to do something.
It's the core. I mean, the core is getting rotten like an apple. Like that's the only way I can put it. They're gonna have to trade somebody from that core. If they don't, they could expect to have these starts every year. And if they did trade someone from that core, then that would open up the cap space for Hampus Lindholm. And so if I were looking at the core and say, who would I trade from that core? It'd be Ryan Getzlaf. That's who I would trade because he plays the power game. I don't think his career is going to go as far as Corey Perry's will. Perry will always be a pest, even if he's not scoring 35, 40 goals. And so I look at it and I say, all right, maybe Ryan Getzlaf, and Kessler plays defense. So at the end of the day, you still need Kessler because of the checking and the defense and the faceoffs. I think Getzlaf's the guy you trade.
Well, they're going to trade someone when they get when Lindholm signed. That's for sure. They're going to be in a spot because this is not a cap team. They don't spend to the cap. They never have. And I don't think they're going to make an exception because it's not as if they feel like they're necessarily right there to win the Stanley Cup. Although they could be. I mean, they were very good last year and they have their moments. But yeah, and the name that keeps coming up is Cam Fowler because of the idea that simply he's the most marketable of the players that they could possibly move, who's making money. So. They've got like you said,
clear real money because not just Lindholm they're going to have to sign. They had Rako they had to sign. They have other guys they're going to have to sign. If they want to keep an elite defense, they can't just simply rotate in and out of these defenders. And that's why I think, and it's not the defense that's causing them problems.
Right.
It's their offense, and the problem is, and this is the other thing. It almost doesn't matter who they add to this offense with this group. Until they significantly shake it up, it just seems like whoever you plug in there is just not going to be able to do the job.
Kind of, I can see that. I mean, because this is Getzlaf's team, right? And when you say, moving Getzlaf, he is marketable still. He still has value. You could get younger. I mean, I know what they're trying. I know with Cam Fowler, they're trying to get a forward, and that's what they've been trying to do. They're trying to get a young prospect forward who can score now, who can come in and play for them now. And the teams that I keep hearing, and there are a lot of teams calling now because it's funny though. Like the second the Lindholm news broke that they were actually talking, immediately the rumors with Fowler started up again after they had gone dead for a while. And that would be New Jersey, the Islanders, and the Maple Leafs as well.
Fowler's only got one more year in his deal, right?
Right.
This year and one more year.
Right. And so that's like the Keith Yandel effect. I think when everybody saw what happened to the Rangers and they lost Anthony Duclair in the process, teams are not going to be willing to part with that much, knowing that, hey, we got to sign this guy. He's not signed.
Now, just using those three teams as examples, if you're talking the Islanders, you're talking about Fowler, who's got, like you said, 2 years left in the deal, so this year or next year. You look at their roster, you're talking a guy like a Josh Bailey, who's got the same type of contract level left, 2 more years at $3.3 million.
So they're playing with Tavares right now. Bailey's playing with Tavares right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to move Bailey because of that, and also they're struggling for offense. I don't think they should trade anybody.
Right. So if you're talking the Devils, then you're talking it's not going to be Kyle Palmieri because he used to be on there. Maybe Adam Henrique.
It could be Blake Spears. Blake Spears is starting to emerge, and he is a future goal scorer. So,
well, the thing is, is Anaheim going to want to take I think Spears is a fine prospect, but are they going to want to go the prospect route for Fowler, or are they going to want to go for somebody?
Yeah, because I think they don't want to get back anybody with a salary.
Well, they can't get money back, that's for sure. But they do. But they do. I mean, they are in a way asking for a little bit of an impossibility here. I've heard prospects / player that can play now. Now that means that either or of those, it doesn't have to be a prospect that's playing now, so it can be a prospect that's coming in. But they would love to get somebody who could add to them now.
Right. If it's Toronto, obviously it's not gonna be Matthews, not gonna be Marner, it's not gonna be William Nylander. It's probably it could be Nazem Kadri, but he just got signed for 6 years, and I don't think that really saves them any money. Is it gonna be Kasperi Kapanen? I mean, none of it really makes a good fit. So
they have a lot of young prospect forwards, obviously.
Spears is playing now, so that's why I think that
Maybe.
that kind of player is what you could look at. I mean, and he really is a good offensive talent. I don't know what else you're going to get. You're not going to get a guy like Duclair anymore. That was a crazy trade for the Rangers. They thought they'd win the Cup. They didn't win the Cup. Now it's sort of like a cautionary tale to the next team that makes this same sort of deal, because how much impact is really Fowler going to have? He's going to help them. There's no question.
Yeah, he's a good
Yandel helped the Rangers, but at the end of the day, Yandel did not help the Rangers get back to where they wanted to get back to.
I mean, Russ, and this wasn't part of the mix here, but the Rangers do need defense.
Yes.
Fowler would make sense for them, and they do have young forwards who are in the NHL. Would a JT Miller or
they're not part with Miller at this point? They just can't. I mean, it's just he's now too valuable because he's one of the few guys that plays an all-around greasy game and will hit guys. They're a very passive team. I don't think they could afford to do it. Now, McElrath is the guy that's getting marginalized here, but again, and he doesn't make money, but they want an offensive player. So with the Rangers, it's going to be tough. I mean, they really don't have anybody. Ryan Gropp is the only guy that they could give him, but he's a year away now because they sent him back to juniors. And he does have offensive talent. And so to me, that's – oh, actually, no, you know what? He might be in the AHL. I think Gropp is in the AHL. So that's who they could do.
Yeah, I mean, it's Anaheim is definitely asking for a lot for this trade is what I've heard. And they should, because Fowler's a legitimate top 4 defenseman, which aren't available very often. So
no, he is legit. I mean, there's no about it.
But like you said, there's not a lot of teams that really, and especially if what they're going to get back if they're just getting back equal money, it makes no sense to them to do this at all. Like they have to get back money savings thing that gives them a little more offense, and that's hard.
Rob went back to Seattle, so he's at least a year away, maybe 2.
Okay,
yeah. So and I mean, for a defenseman who's of Fowler's quality, that's understandable. But the thing is, like Russ just said, the short-term part of the contract and the fact that he's going to be, I believe, 26 or 27 when he hits UFA in 2 years, you're talking about somebody who's probably on the open market going to make $6 million in free agency. So he's not going to sign an extension, and you're not going to get top value for him because his contract is short. It's the same situation that St. Louis is dealing with Shattenkirk. They can't get what the player is worth because he doesn't have term left on his deal. So Bob Murray is either going to have to take, to mitigate the value that he wants to get back, or he just keeps him and tries to address his problem with this team by trading somebody else.
Yeah, and that could end up being where it goes because it's you really there aren't a lot of partners here. I mean, Kadri did make sense to me before the contract, like you said, Mike. And now, but the contract Kadri's contract is not terrible at all. But it's
$4.5 million, and if you want offense.
Right, he's going to give them some offense, but the question is, I think you'd want to see Kadri.
It's a culture thing now. I mean, for the same reasons that Edmonton claimed they got rid of Taylor Hall, who scored 2 goals last night. Good for Taylor Hall. They need to do that desperately in Anaheim.
Right.
Yeah, and believe me, Kadri and Carlisle did not get along well in Toronto. So I think
that's also a big.
But the thing is, the talk has always been if Fowler in Toronto. JVR, because the deals, the terms of the deals are both the same and their salaries are pretty comparable. But I don't get the feeling that the Leafs are looking to trade JVR. They like the fact that they have a veteran like him, along with Bozak, playing with Marner, and I think they want those veteran guys having an effect and having an influence on Marner. So I don't think they're anxious to move forward of his abilities just yet.
I guess it comes down to Babcock and what he really thinks of JVR. That's what we don't know. Like, I mean, all the indications are that he likes JVR, and I've heard nothing but good things. But, it's tough to say. How does he see him part of his long-term plan? I guess is the idea. Like, does he see him as part of that? Is part of where this team's is JVR going to be a part of this team when they're good? And he's not JVR is not old, so I mean, it can perfectly be there, but. It's just,
he's going to be on the edge. It'll be right on the edge.
Yeah, he's right going to be right on the edge. I agree, because there are some, and I know Lamorella is not the big, I mean, just going back from years and years ago, Lamorella wasn't the biggest JVR fan either. So, I mean, and I'm a huge JVR fan, and I think that he gets completely misrepresented but there are some old school hockey people that don't like his game.
I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I think he could work with some of the players that the Leafs have long-term still. But I think, it's developing. I don't know if we're going to know that answer for another year or 2.
Right. And Kadri, I feel the same way. Like I think Kadri, where Kadri is, we'll really know a year from now. Like I think that.
Yeah, I think we're already getting the signals of where Kadri is at, because he's, in spite of the fact that Mike Babcock has said publicly, Austin Matthews is going to be the number 3 center. I think he's playing with Hyman and Nylander in a more offensive line. Even though they may be the third line, they're one of the top 2 lines in terms of offense. And the Marner line is the second line. They have Kadri playing with Leo Komarov and Mihan Mahalik on a checking line. And Kadri, I do not believe, has a point in the first 2 games. That doesn't mean that's not going to happen. But if they're going to marginalize him as a checking line center,
that's not his game at all.
Then I don't think that speaks well of his future in Toronto. Just like it didn't speak well of Mikhail Bobrovsky, who they put in a checking role a few years ago.
Right.
And let's discuss this before we get out of here today. A little bit of the concept of Austin Matthews being a third line player, and being like, and they're keeping him on the third line for a lot of reasons, and this is a very typical old school hockey move, right? We're making him earn his way up. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm a big fan of those kind of things. I really don't think players should just be handed, even if they score 4 goals in their first game or whatever, they shouldn't just be handed the mantle as the top player. But so my issue is not how it affects him as much as it affects the rest of the team when they know that he's the best player on the team and he's sitting as the third line player. And I just wonder if there's because I look at the other 2 centers above him, right? You have Bozak, right?
Bozak and Kadri, yeah.
Bozak and Kadri, right? These are 2 players that have been expendable for years, and these are players that they both look at like they're good players, but both have been they've tried to trade both of them. They've tried to move both of them over and then you have Austin Matthews. So how does this play into the whole psyche of the team of like, listen, we want to win here, and he's not the guy.
Well, okay. They want to win, but they don't expect to win right now. I think right now the mentality of the Maple Leafs is get these young players experience, let them develop, don't put a lot of pressure on them, especially in the hockey mad market like Toronto. That's what I think is behind the number 3 center thing. Let Kadri carry the weight, let Bozak carry the weight, take the pressure off of Matthews. But the thing is, Matthews is going to thrive if you think he's playing a third line center role. Yeah. He's playing against other teams' third line centers. That's a matchup.
But he's not playing against the other teams' third line centers because no one sees him as a third line center in the rest of the NHL. Like if maybe at home he's playing against third line centers, but on the road everyone's matching him, and people are matching him. There's no question about it.
Game on the road, and that was against a team that can't play defense in Ottawa, and maybe
4. What is that?
But no, the rest of the way, he's definitely going to be, he's going to be, I mean, you're going to match him. If your best checking player is going to be on Austin Matthews. I mean,
here's what I think. Right now, he's at 50% on faceoff, so he certainly could move up to the second line, and it wouldn't hurt anybody. He's getting 16, 17 minutes, so he's really getting more than third line minutes.
Yeah. No, I know, and you will, because you're not going to not play him.
It's just semantics. It really is.
Yeah. It is semantics. I just wonder. It's interesting to me how this plays out with a team, and then the idea of, okay, we want to start. When do we start? You say there's nothing expected of them again. When do we start expecting something of them? Like when is something expected of this Maple Leafs team? At what point does that go from there's not? I mean, how many years can?
I think next year. You're going to start
next year. Then it's next year. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write this down.
Write it down. It's next year.
Much is expected of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They might overachieve, go above and beyond the expectations this year because nobody's expecting much of them. But I'm just saying to you right now, they don't have the defense capable of making the playoffs. They have some holes up front. They have some players who have durability problems up front.
Yes.
And you're putting a lot of expectations on a 19-year-old kid in Marner and a 19-year-old kid in Matthews. If they both thrive, then they may exceed expectations. But the thought in Toronto right now is they're not going to make the playoffs. The thought is just be better than you were last year. Be more entertaining than you were last year. And that's it. I mean, I don't think that they're going to put the pressure on this team. You got to make the playoffs. You got to be a contender. That's going to come. And I think people know that's going to come.
Okay. Yep. I mean, and I think they could overachieve too. And I really think that we learned that there are lessons to be learned out of what has happened in Edmonton about how long before you actually start putting pressure on teams. Because if you let things go for a long enough time, you really do have problems. But that's all the time we have for today, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. So enjoy the night's games. And remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon.